distrust is very deep in regards to this policy, such as this policy gives water resources control, the control over a 700-gallon water storage tank for domestic use or a 7-acre foot pond used for ag and wildlife, but no control towards a 70,000-acre foot Lake Mendocino. Large urban users will not be affected. It appears that this map that we're looking at, and I think it was your words, that we'll see how it works on the North Coast and then we'll apply it to the state. Large urban water users won't be affected. Santa Rosa will feel no pain. There's no limits for the increase in urban and suburban demand for water. I believe the distrust comes from it appears that the agricultural operations found in the small watersheds are the target of this policy. So communication hasn't brought forward that achievement of getting rid of that distrust over this policy. So I lay those concerns over, don't take this personal, but we've got some major problems here, and our constituents have even greater concerns than we do. There might be one, there might be two, but the majority of the board here has no stake in this fight except to represent our constituents. A couple of these members do have water storage needs, etc. So I think at the end, and maybe I'm leaping forward here, you're going to see us request that options be evaluated, maybe a delay of the implementation, those type of things be discussed towards the end of this conversation today. But there's great concern and a lot of unanswered questions included in the questions that I posed to you that are coming for constituents, coming forward from the board, just a lot of concerns, and more of a comment than a question, and more commentary than question. But I think you can see that there's some distrust from little old Mendocino County and maybe other counties of how this policy's come about. You know, it's my understanding it was signed at 3 o'clock in the morning, this bill, AB 2121, and it never even went to committees to be fleshed out. Is that correct?
It was adopted as a trailer bill, that's correct.
Yeah. You know, so
a little bit of a surprise to us, too.
That breeds distrust.
What was a truck if this is a trailer?
It's the one that ran over.
Yeah, yeah. And squashed my scrawny little keister here, but okay. Any other questions from the board, concerns? I would ask that members of the public that wish to speak to this keep it respectful. These are agents of the government. They didn't write this thing. So keep it respectful. State your name. Keep it to 3 minutes as much as possible. This is the opportunity for the public to express concerns of the implementation of this policy, and this board, as coming from different perspectives as it is, 5 different ways, I think we're united in the concern on this policy, and so this is your opportunity from the public to come forward and speak to the issue. So I'll take your cards, and I'll announce the first speaker and then the follow-up speakers after that, and please keep it to 3 minutes if possible. Carrie? You're first up, Ms. Carrie Brown, followed by Paula Whalen.
Carrie Brown. I would like to ask 2 questions. The first is, if a rural water district in this county wants to expand and get more water, will it be able to do so under the new policy with its restrictions?
The answer is not quite that simple, but yes and no. There's, depending on the location and the particular watershed that a water district's in, it may condition the outcome. But for the most part, when we looked at a lot of projects, small water projects and small watershed, a good portion of them would get approval from the State Water Board. You would have additional operating requirements, measuring devices and some of these other things, but you still would get approval. But there are some locations that essentially, there's not a lot of water left. And there may be restrictions on that. We gave some examples that we actually calculated what the impact of the policy would be on several small projects, and some of which we've already approved, but we wanted to see if we applied the policy, would it change the approval from us? And in some cases it did. It allowed less water available for a particular small water user. But there is some possibility that you would get reduced or maybe not any water in the future. But a good portion of them still would get approvals from the State Water Board.
And to the speakers, if you could come to the podium and state your questions in series, and then allow the answers to come forward in a group instead of back and forth, back and forth.
Okay. In the past, the division would accept a protest against a project without the protest being specific to the project, and the protest could tie up the application for years. Will the policy change the protest procedure to one that is fair and equitable to both the protestant and the applicant?
The policy really won't go to protestants per se. That's a water rights process, and some of that is mandated by the statutes. However, the division through other processes has evaluated the process, protest process, and we're becoming much more stringent on what protests we do accept. But if they do meet the minimum requirements in the statutes, we're obligated to proceed with those. We're also holding protestants much more accountable for information and support for their particular protest. They can't just protest because they don't like their neighbor. But on the other hand, we're holding the applicants also accountable for response to protests where we think they're valid or reasonable. So it kind of goes both ways, and we've improved and changed that process primarily in the last 2 or 3 years.
Okay, thank you. Paula Whalen, and followed by Kurt Schoenemann. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Paula Whalen. I am a partner in the firm of Wagner and Bonsignor Engineers in Sacramento. I just wanted to set the stage here a little bit. I'm not a constituent, but I do represent about 30 vineyard owners in Mendocino County who are going to be directly affected by this policy. When I say represent them, I represent their water rights administration and working with these folks at the State Water Resource Control Board in processing these rights. And I want to voice my support, first of all, by the stance that Mendocino County has taken, a very good stance and excellent questions here and concerns being voiced. We support those. I thought you should know that a couple of state senators also have supported that here in California with similar letters to the state board. I know Steve is expecting a lot of other, Steve Herrera is expecting a lot of other comments. He's right. I know he knows that we're going to be preparing on behalf of our clients, and I encourage the Mendocino County Board of Supervisors to stay involved in this process. Our clients, for the most part, I would say, good stewards of the land. They support environmental protection when it's based on sound scientific information. But there's no indication in this policy that these drastic compliance measures that are going to be imposed by the policy would, in fact, benefit the fishery resources they're aimed at. I wanted to make a couple of other comments about small watersheds and projects that are affected by this policy. Steve Herrera is right. There are some projects that are going to be able to sail through without a problem in compliance, other than maybe some physical restrictions.